There are countless legends of creatures of gargantuan proportions, spanning back many hundreds of millions of years, stories of beings which once roamed and flourished upon a planet with food and vegetation of equal proportions. A planet without a tilt of its axis, with equal and temperate environments all year round, spanning far north and south from the equator. These conditions not only permitting the existence of prehistoric dinosaurs, but seemingly everything upon the planet was able to accomplish enormous sizes. With dinosaurs slowly but surely transforming into the modern-day bird, one must wonder what could have happened which caused this drastic change. This shrinkage and indeed the tilt of Earth's axis. Yet I feel the most compelling of possibilities to ponder in regard to this lost world has to be that of the trees. Just how big did the trees become? Were they too influenced by these perfect conditions into growing to heights many simply dismiss as impossible? Is there evidence, perhaps the petrified remains, which just like that of the smorgasbord of fossils spanning throughout the Triassic to Jurassic, and so on, still existing? Perhaps the stumps left by this global cataclysm slowly turned to stone, and due to modern paradigms are dismissed, just like that of some of the oldest and eroded ruins we share here upon our channel. They too argued as simply being that of geological formations. The largest tree still alive upon Earth, for example, is so heavily protected that very few are allowed to the site and even less aware of its location. For it would appear that certain individuals whom profit from certain beliefs regarding our past, like that of the giant redwoods, more interested in felling these giant and very ancient trees, rather than letting them remain as living proof of just what nature can do when it is presented with ideal conditions. I have in the past covered the astonishing supposed natural formation known today as Devil's Tower within Wyoming, which if indeed once a tree, would have reached high into the heavens, with an estimated height no less than 2 miles high. An ancient anomaly which is passionately argued as anything but, with some saying it the result of volcanic activity below the earth, one which long ago solidified, then somehow became exposed upon the surface. Whilst others claim it formed from various other geological processes, yet they all concur it is anything but a tree. They seemingly convinced it not a tree, yet they also continue to not even be able to agree amongst themselves of just exactly what it is. Could there be countless examples of these ancient remains found worldwide, which due to plausible deniability and a lack of entertaining or indeed exploring such possibilities have been successfully overlooked or in many cases not even realized as possible candidates? What happened to the dinosaurs, the giant vegetation, Earth's axis? Were these giant remains argued away as geological to conceal the true reality of Earth's history? I find such possibilities highly compelling.
When someone mentions the word Jurassic, visualizations of enormous creatures surrounded by man-eating plants will soon follow. And this is for good reason, because during the era of the dinosaurs, enormous creatures could only survive with equally enormous food sources. Within the Black Hills of Dakota, petrified remains of these once enormous organisms can still be found. Presumably, they can also be discovered in many other parts of the world. Yet within the Black Hills, it seems the prehistoric remains have avoided the deluge of sediment which has been experienced elsewhere, subsequently burying the evidence under several meters of earth. Petrified, enormous trees that, when alive, would have soared into the air, matching in height many of today's modern skyscrapers. Opened to the public in 1929, an entire island, 50 by 100 miles in size, covered with the perfectly preserved petrified remains of a once gigantic forest. Trees of incredible and seemingly impossible sizes, destroyed by a cataclysm which made them collapse in unison. Now recognized as one of the largest outcroppings of fossilized petrified wood anywhere on the surface of the Earth, it is a rare natural insight into the enormity of Earth's ancient wildlife. Quote, "Here is just the beginning of an astounding photographic documentation of this petrified island, a little glimpse of an entirely unknown condition upon the Earth. It is a major historical discovery that, if embraced, will cause major upheaval within the science and religious communities," said Joseph C. Bennett from BeholdGiants.com. Scientists assume that the maximum height of a tree was 425 feet from the ground. At this height, the tree's ability to pump nutrients is supposedly overcome by gravity. However, Joseph, along with several other astute researchers, have discovered the remnants of ancient trees within the area, which would have had a circumference of over a half a mile. The Devil's Tower, coincidentally also within Dakota, has been argued for many years by many people to actually be that of a once enormous petrified tree. The formation of its rocky surface does indeed appear to be reminiscent of tree bark, yet many will argue against such a premise, or indeed the possibility, based on traditional rather than more modern and controversial understandings of the past capabilities of plant and animal life. Thankfully, as more research is undertaken and more become aware of these amazing places, the possibility becomes even more likely.
Just how old is human civilization? Was there indeed once a highly capable world-going group? One which was either wiped out or somehow mysteriously vanished here on our planet? Many of the artifacts we share here on our channel would indeed indicate this to be true, with some found in the most unlikely yet prehistoric of places. Artifacts like that of the Dorchester Bell or the Iron Pot, which we have shared in the past, each of them found in coal deposits claim to be hundreds of millions of years old, with the next find being of no exception. In 1918, coal miners would hit a strange hard object within the middle of a huge coal seam somewhere within the United States. In the center of the seam, dated at some 300 million years old, they would slowly excavate what they soon come to realize was actually an entire intact tree stump. This astonished them, as coal layers typically form from ancient vegetation, but the presence of an intact stump within the coal seam was unprecedented. The event captured not only the attention of the miners, but also sparked the curiosity of scientists. Geologists conducted extensive research to determine the stump's age and understand the ecosystem in which it once thrived, although we were unable to find the results of these tests published anywhere publicly. The burial of the stump within coal, they claimed, indicates that the area underwent many climatic and environmental changes, leading to the formation of the coal layers we see today. However, what we noticed about the stump itself was the clean break upon the log. If the tree had indeed fell naturally, this clean cut would not be present. It seems as if the stump had been felled by an axe, but if this were indeed proved to be the case, it would have obliterated the currently upheld chronology in regards to the technical developments of man. Yet there are other objects within our libraries which would support the log, having once been felled with tools. The London hammer, also once found within the United States, has a handle which itself has petrified and began to become coal, or that of the chariot wheel once found by a miner in Russia, within a shaft that was quickly closed and flooded. Could these objects, along with this petrified tree stump, hint at human civilization, being many millions of years older than previously thought? Or that the process in which coal forms be entirely misunderstood? With all of the other evidence we have found and shared here on our channel, it could indeed be the former, yet I digress. Just how old is the tree stump in the mine? Why did it not itself turn to coal? And why does it appear to have been artificially cut down? These are all questions which we find highly compelling.
Throughout the ages, countless reports of unexplained and baffling discoveries have been reportedly made deep within the mines of Earth. Regardless of the type of mine, or indeed its depth, it seems that these peculiar stories continue to surface, and usually only by word of mouth. Often, attached to these fascinating tales, you will find stories of these artifacts being seized, destroyed, or simply reburied. We are often confronted with an apparent cover-up, vast resources and manpower being harnessed to hide these facts from the world. The motives for choosing to conceal such artifacts from the world could indeed be endless, though regardless of motive, we feel it is imperative that we continue to expose these stories to the earth if we have compelling witnesses and unmistakable evidence of a cover-up. Deep beneath the city of Donetsk, within the Rostov region of Russia, a large foundation of sandstone can be found, something known as rock shield of Carboniferous age. It is about 300 to 360 million years old and is lined with distributions of coking coals that are also of around the same age. Astonishingly, Mr. Kasatskin has discovered, upon the roof of this shaft of coal, an imprint of a chariot wheel, an imprint undoubtedly made before the rock had formed around it. He also discovered another imprint, a small distance further along the shaft. It must be noted that these imprints have remained buried deep within these seams of rock for many millions of years. If a scientific analysis could have been undertaken upon this artifact, it could have shaken our understandings of world history, just like so many other artifacts we have been made aware of, all but a few now stolen from the public domain. Upon realizing the implications of his discovery, Mr. Kasatskin, an extremely experienced foreman in ventilation and safety engineering, specializing in seismic prognosis, thankfully took several photographs of his miraculous and now concealed discovery before officially reporting it and requesting a scientific evaluation. When his boss notified the owners of the mine in the hopes of getting an analysis of the artifact with an attempt to preserve it, to his boss's surprise, they demanded he continued the work through the shaft so that it could be subsequently flooded, which is unfortunately what has occurred, making further exploration of the sites impossible. He stated that he's investigated further regarding the Western mine's history with the fellow miners there and was able to confirm the existence of the other print within that mine. It had been damaged by blast hole driving and was little mentioned, though it was indeed there. He was sometimes in this cut, he said, and got to take a good look at it. He says that he was surprised, but also somewhat afraid to admit that these objects are of artificial origin. We, on the other hand, are excited by such a premise, and will keep you posted on any further developments regarding the mine.
Hey guys, so today I wanted to share with you a rather special out-of-place artifact. It's known as the Fisher Canyon footprint, and it's actually a lump of coal. However, this small lump of coal is something very special. It's an artifact we hold dear to our hearts here at Mystery History. Since its discovery in the early 1900s by a man named John T. Reed, a character we have actually covered in the past, it has been silencing skeptics and evolutionists the world over. John T. Reed was the man responsible for confirming native Indian legends of a race of red-headed giants that once terrorized the American continent some 13,000 years ago. When John found the Fisher Canyon footprint, he reported it to the New York Sunday American. The coal layer in which the fossil was found was dated at over 15 million years ago. Microscopic photography that was carried out by the Rockefeller Institute, presumably attempting to discredit the find, actually confirmed that it was indeed a heel print of a hand-stitched shoe, and that the fossil seemed to show the presence of 2 rows of stitches along the edge of the sole, with twists of thread clearly visible in the photography. The right side of the shoe also appeared more worn than the left, indicating that it was worn on the right foot. Crystals of mercury sulfide, collected during the analysis, only confirmed the fossilized shoe print's enormous age. After the test results were in, Samuel Hubbard of the Museum of Archaeology in Oakland, California, buckled to the sheer amount of conclusive evidence by telling the press, quote, "Today's people are not yet able to make this kind of shoe. Facing this kind of evidence indicates that at the time of suspected uncivilized arthropods, millions of years ago, people with high intelligence appear to have existed. Detail of the threads proves that it was the sole of a shoe and was strictly the handiwork of man." End quote. This is why we love the Fisher Canyon footprint so much. It sat in the back of museum collections for years, silently waiting for evolutionists and skeptics alike to stumble upon its existence, only for it to then cast its spell of tremendous doubt upon their way of thinking. They can produce no real explanation for it. The best any mainstream scientists or anthropologists can do is ignore the evidence and conclude it's just a natural formation. Unfortunately, the footprint conveniently went missing a few years ago, even though by all accounts it was just a lump of coal. The story has also been hijacked over the years, with the Rockefeller Institute's test results subsequently vanishing. However, luckily for us, the quotes by Hubbard are in press archives all over the world. This small lump of coal is sure to fuel the argument for years to come.